Gracefully and Frankly is more graceful, less cranky, thanks to the Canadian-made all-natural anti-inflammatory Sierra Sil. Shoulders, knees, feet, anywhere your joints ache, give these capsules just 14 days for you to feel a difference or your money back.
And you can find out all about it. Place an order at sierrasil.com, Sierra like the mountains, SIL.com, and use the code GF to get 10% off your purchase.
Episode 74. Welcome. I'm Erin Davis.
I am Lisa Brandt. Thank you for being here.
Well, we're kind of going there today. We're going to talk about, we did the whole therapy thing last week, but one woman who reminded us, just wait a minute, not everybody gets that. And so we'll delve into that a bit.
We'll talk about an unexpected aspect of your move, Erin. Something I never anticipated, never even thought of, and it's rearing its adorable little head in your move.
Yeah, what happens when you can't go home again? Lisa went home again. We'll talk about her wild in Wingham weekend. Okay, maybe not so wild, but you know us.
That's a place where I quit drinking, so.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
It was something. And olive oil is this story about how it prevents dementia a little too good to be true.
We will look at what they have found does help stave off dementia, too. And we'll get to that and so much more in episode 74. Brought to you by, of course, Envy Pillow.
Envy Pillow has changed a little bit of its wording. I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm sure you have, because it's something we talked about, and you said a while ago that we shouldn't be anti-aging. We should be pro-aging, because aging is the goal, right?
It's inevitable.
It's where we want to go, and it's what we want, and it's something that is denied to so many, and we need to embrace it and be grateful for it. And the Envy Pillow is one of the things I'm certainly grateful for. Kathy and Kim, the inventors and founders of it, and the women who still to this day appear in their social media stuff, they're so much fun. They love what they've done. They love hearing from people as to how the Envy Pillow has changed their life. It's made my neck stop hurting. There's just so many wonderful things about it. You don't sleep on your face, and it can help reduce wrinkles that way too. One-sided facial volume loss.
Whoa.
Is the way they put it. Yeah. That's how regular pillows behave, but this is not the Envy Pillow. Take it from them. Age is truly just a number.
I'm sure Rob would like the front side of my face to see some volume loss, but where the sound hole is. You find out more at envypillow.com. Use the code GF for 10% off. Well, Wingham's been in the news a lot the last little while, of course, with the passing of Alice Munro, who all Canadians know is from Wingham initially, but you were there for a different reason this past weekend.
I used to work and live in Wingham. I was there for 4 years on radio and television at the time. They don't have TV there anymore, but it's been a long, long time. And one of the guys I hired while I was there, because I became a program director of the FM station, there was only one then, is still there. And he wanted to talk to some people he used to work with who he liked and just talk about what it was like back in the day working there, because it's so different now. There's hardly anybody in the building. We probably had 130 to 150 people working there.
Can you imagine? In a small town like Wingham.
But it was a big market. The market was about 500,000 people. The station happened to be located in this one tiny town. So we were always going to Kincardine or Hanover or Exeter or whatever, because it was all part of our radio market. So people used to get this wrong idea that, Wingham, I mean, it's 3,000. Why would I want to go there? It's
right.
Just that they were all spread out. You know, all the listeners were spread out, so there was a lot of driving. But we had a lot of fun, and we went out for lunch, reminisced, and just guys I love, I haven't seen in a while. And as I was leaving, Phil said, you should go and see this mutual friend of ours. They've got the nicest garden on our block. And I thought I understood him. So I sort of pulled over to this one house, and Phil and his wife had pulled up to their place. And he said, no, it's on the other side of the road down there. I went down the same side of the road where I saw a woman out gardening and went, Hi, are you? Because I hadn't seen her in 40 years. And she's like, no. And Phil comes walking up. He says, Lisa, the other side of the road, further down, she's pulling weeds.
Ah!
So I made like 3 wrong stops, and he just kept sort of tracking me to make sure I finally got there. I felt like I had 0 IQ. I knew he had said the other side of the road. I knew he had said it was a beautiful lawn. And anyway, I found the right people and got some hugs, and it was wonderful. But I just felt so stupid.
Oh, who was it? Thomas Wolfe, who said you can't go home again? Something like that? You got to find it
that's
first,
right? I found the station, no problem, just people's houses. My goodness. And, you go and you look where you used to live and see how things are. And I mean, I left there in 1990, so
wow,
it's been a long time. Yeah.
A lifetime ago. Well, you're reminding me of something that Rob and I did once, and it's tying in with something going on in our lives right now. And I'll get to it on a windy, pitted, ditchy country road because that's where the house is.
Okay.
When Rob and I married, we did one of our pilgrimages back to a little town in Alberta called Turner Valley. And it was near Calgary, and every summer, it seems, of my childhood, I was able to hop on a plane. My dad was Air Force, so I'd either get on the military 707 or sit in a hammock on a Hercules. Wow. But always across from young cadets, so that was always fun, too. I thought that was an adventure. But to go and visit my grandparents. So this place, amid all the moving, all of the changes that we saw during my childhood, from all the relocations and different schools and all of that, this place really was my heart home. So by the time Rob and I went to see this house, I wanted to show him where it was at the end of this little road that often flooded in the spring because of the Sheep Creek. And it was just a terrible road, but big willows and cottonwood trees, and it was pretty as heck. Went to the house, drove up, and the siding had changed. It was no longer this turquoise that my grandfather had painted it. He was an artist, and he loved color. He'd painted it this vivid turquoise, and it had siding on it. And I went, okay, they've changed that. Now, before we went, I had found out the names of the people who lived in this house, and I had arranged to go in and see it inside. But do you know, when we were sitting there in the driveway, I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't go and look inside and see how my memories had changed. Because I always wanted to remember that black and white tile floor, not fancy ceramic tiles, but stick-down tiles that faded, the white and black. The white had faded to cream, that we danced on, that my grandmother in her tender tootsies clacked across the floor as she made popcorn with one of those ones on a stick that you went back and forth over the gas stove. And, where we gathered around the piano with all our instruments and just had music night after music night. I couldn't do it, Lisa. I just completely chickened out.
I did something similar, although it wasn't nearly as picturesque, my grandparents' place in Brantford. And I did go through it. They put on an addition. They did all sorts of things. They opened up the attic. They took out these really steep stairs that went up to these 2 sort of slanted little bedrooms that my brother and I occupied when we were there in the summer. But my original memory stays. I still see it in my mind's eye the way it was when I was a kid. But I also thought it was kind of cool to see what these people did with it, because they had a bunch of kids and they bumped it out way back and they made a more modern house out of it. But I mean, I get that. I totally get it.
Yeah. The place that I dream about when I go back there in my dreams is still intact in my head. And when you think about it now, I mean, you talk about those steep little stairs. Parents today wouldn't let their kids anywhere near those stairs. We used to have to go down such a tremendously steep set of stairs to get down to the basement, which always flooded. It smelled dank. It was scary. And there was this cellar. If you opened the door, there was dirt walls in it, and that was the scary room. You never wanted to be sent down there for pickles and rotting cans of apple juice from probably World War II.
Yep.
It's such a different time, and yet those are the times we remember and want to go back to. So we're dealing with that now as a little bit of an emotional fallout that we never, ever expected from our upcoming move.
Okay.
Colin, our 9-year-old grandson, part of what has him bummed about leaving British Columbia and going back to Ottawa, even though there are a lot of exciting things and adventures that await there, is that Grandma and Granddude's condo is going to be small and boring. And what he's thinking is, this place, yeah, it's sprawling, but the fun of it is in the driveway where they play soccer and baseball and basketball and golf and do everything outside. And that, to him, is what this house means. And we're not going to have any of that at our new place. Oh. So in addition to moving, we are effectively putting all of his memories of this place out to the curb.
But you're not really, because he'll always have them. He just won't make more. But he'll always have those memories. I guess he probably wants to come back and play that compound or whatever it is that you and Rob had put down where if you fall on your butt, which I did often playing with those kids, you don't get hurt. And I mean, it's pretty cool stuff, but there'll be new cool things for him to check out. There'll be new. And I guess when you're a little kid, you can't see that. You can't imagine, oh, everything's going to be great in the new place too. It'll just be different.
Yeah, that's what we forget is what children hold on to. We have to put ourselves back in their shoes. Now, would we stay here just for the maybe annual visit from them? Probably not. Right. But it's just kind of a double whammy for him that we didn't expect, and we do respect. He's asking, well, are you going to move into the condo before we leave? No, we're going to go after you leave, probably the same week. But that's what we're dealing with. And I just wondered if anybody else had that experience where they had this special memory and they didn't want to go back to it because, you know, you don't want to see that it's changed. Right. And have you ever had somebody come up to you? I know you've done renovations and that sort of thing. We've had this happen. We bought a cottage up in Beaverton, actually, balls over on the Trent Canal. And the house came with a little trailer for toting stuff to the dump and stuff. And Rob painted it gray to match one of our cars. And the guy who owned the place came back and he said, well, why'd you paint it? And Rob said, well, I just like this color better. And then we thought, oh, my God, if he saw the inside of the house and what we'd done, he'd be livid.
I remember, because that was a big project.
Yeah.
But once you've sold it, you got to, I just find that presumptuous.
Oh, yeah.
That he would think that you would keep anything his way. I know some people get very attached to homes and stuff, and I really don't. So I'm probably not the best one to react to that, because I'm just like, come on, you sold it. I mean, I could put an addition on it. I could take the roof off. I can do whatever I want. It's mine now.
Yeah.
There's no social contract that says you have to keep anything the way they did. You know, I left an antique at one of our places, and when it was relisted, the woman who lived there had painted it. So she completely ruined any value it had.
Oh, what was it?
It was like a sideboard.
Oh, okay.
And I told her, you know, this thing has some value if it's kept as is or whatever. And when I saw it, I kind of laughed, and I thought, okay, she wanted it to be a bright color, whatever. I left it. There's nothing I can do about it. She didn't see the value in it. And
yeah,
I don't know. I don't have trouble letting things go. And I think maybe it might be because of a fire I had many years ago, and I lost everything I owned and started from scratch. And you lose your connection to stuff once that happens, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's just stuff. I still don't want to lose my wedding ring or anything, but it's just stuff. We got a lot of feedback about our therapist, Erin, as you know, leaving our therapist.
Yes.
Our mutual therapist who we've never seen together because we don't need therapy together.
Not yet.
After finding out that some of his values didn't align with ours, and they were kind of surprising and alarming. And we got loads of messages from people, Facebook, emails, all sorts of things, including one from AL. And she said, the one thing that stood out for me is the years and years of therapy that both of you have had, deservedly so. But the issue that comes up for me is I would love to have access to regular therapy, and so would many people, but we can't afford it or get access or find the resources that are of good quality. And then there's the whole other topic of how to get husbands to accept they would benefit from therapy, but shut down at the thought, fear of facing real emotions. And she said, you know, in a better world, we teach about emotions and regulating them and understanding them when we're little kids. And I agree with her. But she makes a good point about how many people, I mean, we're in a mental health crisis that's been going on so long, it almost doesn't feel like a crisis anymore, but it is. people need therapy and some sort of assistance to help them with their mental health.
And usually you and I are very careful about prefacing things with, if we're talking about troubles traveling, we go, look, we know not everybody can afford to go to Italy, so we're not complaining. You're not complaining about the air conditioning in your Airbnb in Italy when God knows there are so many people who wouldn't care about that if it meant they were in Italy. And we understand that. We understand that what we complain of, someone else is dreaming of.
Yep.
That part, though, do you think that she was saying, quit your complaining, at least you've got someone?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't. I think she was just saying there are so many aspects to getting therapy, to getting some sort of assistance with mental health issues, and how valuable talk therapy is, and that there are so many people who just can't get access to it. I know that there are mental health clinics in London, for example, not too far from me, where you can get free access, but can you? When they're only open so many hours a week and so many people need it, and there are addicts, and then there are people who feel that they're at the end of the rope. There are only so many resources. A psychiatrist I read about said that he doesn't do talk therapy anymore. He does only assessments, and so he talks to a patient once and then sends them on their way because there's such a backlog of patients. And if he didn't do that, and if he spent hours and hours with one patient, that would mean all these other people who don't have a chance to talk to a psychiatrist. And
so he's just basically become triage. That's it.
Exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Exactly what he's doing. He's trying to give some sort of an assessment and a plan going forward, and then wish you luck, and off he goes. And I think it's a wonderful thing that he's doing it that way, because he's helping so many more people.
Oh, God. Yeah, there are so many of us who need therapy, need someone to talk to. And yes, indeed, getting your partner to go is a whole other can of worms. But at $150 for 45 minutes, there are things that a lot of people spend that money on elsewhere, whether it's a hair appointment or whatever. Now, that's not to say that $150 doesn't mean the difference between making and not making your rent at the end of the month. For a lot of people, it does. But if you're going to wait in line for 8 years to try and get into the system for free therapy via psychiatry, then is it worth your wait? Or do you have the resources to put that first? And can you convince the other people who are living within your budget that, this is a real thing, and I really need it?
There's a lot going on there, and there are a lot of online mental health resources now, too, so you don't even have to go to someone's office. And I'm not 100% that it would be all of them, but I know some of them are actually less expensive. But it's tough. I can probably think of a half a dozen people off the top of my head who would like to go to therapy. But the other thing is, Erin, we all have this self-talk in our heads. And for a lot of people, especially if you live alone, this is one of my number one worries about living alone, is not having somebody to counteract the voice in my head sometimes. And I don't mean just me, and I'm not planning to live alone, but I mean a lot of people, and this is maybe part of the reason they need therapy, but that everybody's got a voice in their head. And a lot of those voices tell you, oh, it's not worth it, don't even bother, or it's not really going to help you, or you can only afford one appointment, what's the point of going there? Or so-and-so says this. I got a phone call from a woman out of the blue. And when I picked it up because she had hung up a couple times, and I saw that it was a real woman, and I picked it up and she was crying because of something she had read on one of my blogs. She wasn't mad at me or anything, but she was just so upset and had nowhere to turn, and her inside voice had been telling her negative stuff about herself and about this thing. And I talked her off the ledge, but again, this is a woman whose family isn't on board with her getting help and all. I can't delve into it too deeply for too long because it makes me pessimistic.
Yeah.
It makes me worry too much.
Guess what we're saying is we're grateful that it's there for those of us who can get it. You don't have to be a movie star or a CEO to be able to go into some fancy office. Sometimes it's just Zoom. Sometimes it's just over the phone. Sometimes it's something as simple as going to a 12-step meeting, too. There are resources there, and we'll find excuses not to get that support if we're afraid. But you just need someone like you, someone like me, someone who will listen and say, you're not alone. This is normal. An abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation equals normal behavior. Thank you, Dr. Viktor Frankl. So just if you can, and sometimes it's even self-help, finding that book, that message that resonates with you, but you're not alone.
You can even get some of those books at the library. They don't cost a thing.
Exactly.
Some are workbooks that you can work through and do it on your own time.
Yeah. We don't have all the answers. We're always seeking, and we're always welcoming perspectives. And thank you, AL, and everyone else who wrote to us at gracefullyfrankly@gmail.com and posted on our Facebook page, Gracefully and Frankly. It's an open conversation here, and if we're talking about mental health, that's a good thing. And olive oil may also be a good thing for your mental health. You've probably heard this story. Well, there's more to it. We'll open up that bottle in a moment. Dementia is something that we're all... This isn't meant to be a downer this week, I promise you. We'll get some laughs in here, I promise. But dementia is something that we're all talking about and worrying about, especially if you see it in your family. You think, uh-oh, what was that? Am I starting? Is it in the family? All those things. So whenever there's a story that comes across our laptops or our phones or whatever about dementia and ways to prevent it, we're going to pay attention. And this story got a lot of ink or eyeballs a few weeks ago about EVOO. Do you know what EVOO is? I didn't know what EVOO was until about a year ago.
I don't.
EVOO.
What?
EVOO. And you'll see it now everywhere. Extra virgin olive oil.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Sounds like a little spaceman. My little friend, EVOO.
I have seen it, and I didn't know what it was.
Know.
So olive oil, the headline was that olive oil can help prevent dementia. Mm-hmm. But, and I mean, you and I are used to this in radio and journalism and all that kind of thing, is going a little deeper. And like so many things, it's not that simple. It would be great if we could get those helmets with the beer holders on the side and put olive oil bottles in them and a straw to our mouth and make sure we never got dementia, right?
Yeah, right. Or take capsules of it or something every day.
Oh, you can't drink it. Oh. But anyway, what they say is, looking deeper into the medical journal, they found that when they did the studies, they didn't get into what the other people were doing in these studies or what other things the people were doing in these studies. Like, were they eating tomato-based foods?
Right.
Or did they eat more fruits and vegetables? They did eat less red meat, but was that the reason why? Or so many other factors that go into this olive oil is amazing. Put a straw in a bottle or take a capsule, which would not be as much fun, and prevent dementia.
Exactly.
We're a society now that just reads headlines, so it's kind of scary that we would decide just from seeing the headline that, oh, olive oil, let's put it on everything. And olive oil is supposedly good to add to your diet anyway.
Yeah, and what they didn't point out in the study is that the heavy olive oil users were less likely to be smokers, and they got more physical activity.
Right.
Because what do you have olive oil with? Probably not French fries, but definitely salads, definitely the aforementioned tomatoes or Greek salads or whatever. So it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's impossible unless you do the study properly to decide what component of this diet is actually the benefit. Now, if it's sponsored by and paid for Big Olive Oil, well, then you've got an idea.
So then what does cause dementia? Well, the big three, according to a study, now this was of 40,000 adults between the ages of 44 and 82 in Britain, okay? Air pollution, that's a huge one. What are we breathing? Diabetes and alcohol consumption. So what they're looking at here, Lisa, and this was published in the Washington Post, the most common risk factors for dementia, and they are the three most harmful, okay? But there are other ones as you dig in a little bit deeper, and they are blood pressure, cholesterol, weight. Smoking, mood, inflammation, hearing.
Yeah.
We've talked about that, how if you don't have your hearing aids, you're contributing to your dementia. Sleep, socialization, diet, physical activity, and education. Education? What the heck do you do about that at this point in life?
In other words, just about everything.
Well, it seems like it, right? More than 55 million people live with dementia around the world, and that's expected to triple in the next 25 years, according to the WHO. So what are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? We can get erection pills by calling a 1-800 number that you see while you're watching The Twilight Zone on TV at night. But what are we doing to help dementia besides some of the wacko things that people are out there trying to sell? What are we doing?
I don't know about you. Is your doctor a bit of a hard ass when it comes to health? Mine is. She will say, you don't drink and don't smoke, right? And I'm like, no, I don't. And you know, my husband, like Derek's diabetic, and they're really on him to get it under control. He's been a little loosey-goosey with it, and I'll tell you, he's wearing a monitor right now, and it's not fun for him at all to see where his sugar is going, and it's like being scared straight. Remember that, you know, they take kids into prison? Yeah.
Oh, I do.
But, I mean, this is just one more reason for him to get it under control. It's another thing that could be a terrible outcome because of not taking it seriously. I got kind of ticked off at a friend of mine who lost about 50 pounds or something, and then she posted this meme, and I've seen it before. And it's this woman in her 80s who's got weights in her arms, and she's looking super fit, and she's wearing like a little tight shorts and everything. And then there's another woman the same age in the next window, and she's got a walker, and she's wearing a house dress, and she's looking older and not very fit or anything. And it says, you know, which will you choose? It's up to you. And I said, no. It is not up to you. People get MS. People get
arthritis.
All sorts of things. It's not always up to you. There's so much we can do. But she was like, well, I think it is. Look at me. And I'm like, you didn't get any of these neurological or physical illnesses that some people, no matter what they do, still end up getting. So it's just such a complicated, everything in life is complicated.
Yeah, and the last thing people need is judgment. And please,
yes,
please don't construe any of this as judgment. And that's another thing that can contribute to dementia is a past of yo-yo dieting.
Oh, great. I'm screwed.
Yeah, we all are. Pass the rainbow cake. Listen, if you've got any more comments and you want to weigh in on this, please do post on our Facebook page, Gracefully and Frankly. If you email us, one of us will get back to you, but you know where to reach us. And we'll be back here next week, and we thank you for listening. Just always food for thought. Just put some olive oil on it or not, whatever you want.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.